Hey guys, it's Josh over at the TaylorMade Performance Centre here at AF Golf Biggleswade. I'm here with Dave from Milton Keynes. He's here to get his driver fitting for the new Qi35. So we're really excited for this one. We'll see if we can beat his current one, give him a few good options. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Absolutely.
Okay, so Dave, we're going to hit a few with your own driver. If you wouldn't mind just giving us maybe a quick rundown of what you've got as far as the spec that you're currently in before we hit a few, and then we'll go from there.
So I've got the Epic Max LS driver, weight fairly central, 10.5 head turned down to 9.5. Riptide 50 gram stiff shaft that I've got in it at the moment. It is quite short, it's at 44 inches.
Okay.
And it's tipped like a 3-wood shaft. So just,
cool.
I was hitting a few with 3-wood shafts in drivers before, and I quite like the feel of it. So it's kind of what I've built it to be.
Nice.
For that reason. So yeah, that's what I've got at the moment.
All right, let's have a look. Yeah, we'll see a few of yours, see what numbers we're getting, and then we'll have a look at all the heads probably, just to rule them out, just to see. I know you mentioned you're between maybe Core or LS, depending on the results, but we'll hit a few of yours and see how we go from there.
No worries.
Okay, nice. Any struggles with driver or any issues with your current setup that you'd to avoid?
My miss with driver has always been off the toe.
Yeah.
It's always been my bad strikers towards the toe.
Okay.
I do sometimes struggle with some of the brands where it's they feel quite upright.
Okay.
So I've always liked drivers that tend to sit a little bit flatter.
A little flatter. Okay.
And again, this is one thing I have been and got since I got this club, is I've been and got the flat cog that Callaway do to kind of help me with that side of it. But no, other than that, no, I've always been driving's been a relatively strong part of my game, kind of throughout,
Nice.
throughout. So. Going high today.
Okay. Normally launch it that high or a little bit lower normally?
No, I would say that's normally that's a bit on the high side for normal. That's probably more like a normal.
Yeah, nice flight.
Normal sort of window there.
Okay, cool. Just wait for that one to load in. Okay, so yeah, I mean, obviously you've kind of tinker around with this setup quite a lot. You've got it kind of spec'd up to your preference. So numbers from a starting point perspective, really not too bad, to be honest with you. We maybe look at, something like that carbon face with the Qi35 that's just going to deliver a little bit more of that consistent spin rate across the face, especially you mentioned your toe strike's a little bit toey, maybe a little bit low toe, if anything. Hopefully we'll see just that little bit of extra forgiveness there. Might have a tinker around with the lie angle. I mean, have you had a look at, I know you say you don't like the way the upright driver sits, have you had a look whether that does help the toe strikes at all, or do you find it just turns it over a bit too much?
But again, bad shot has always been left for me historically, so it's kind of why I've always sort of not wanting to go too far down that road.
Sure.
And say I'm sort of relatively on the short side of things, so it's sort of flatter lie. I was always felt a bit more comfortable.
Makes sense. Cool. Well, we'll make a start. We'll probably start off in the max head and then work our way down from there.
All right.
So yours is 10.5, but 1 degree off it. So 9.5. Okay. We'll make a similar start just so it's quite familiar, and then we'll go from there. See what
no worries.
Okay, so as I say, just going to start in that max head Just in one click lower for now. So basically playing 9.75 degrees of loft is what it will have on the face. Reason being, we expect this to spin a little bit lower than what you've currently got. So maybe we can see if we can play you in a slightly high loft, maybe get a little bit of that, keep that high launch, but still keep the spin low. We'll see how we go. Hit a few, and then we can always have a tinker. Good one off the bat. In terms of the flight you'd like to see with driver, I mean, with yours, you're hitting it roughly around 100 feet. That kind of height, you like a high sort of flight, would you say?
Again, historically, I would always say I've been a relatively low ball flight player. So it's something that I'm wanting to add a bit of height to my game, so I think that will help. I do struggle sometimes to see it go really high because it just doesn't suit what I've always seen historically, but yeah, I think adding a bit of height to it is probably going to be a good thing in the long run.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so I guess that's the one that we're wanting to kind of avoid when possible, I'd say.
Yeah.
Do you agree? Yeah, just that. Starts on a nice line, but just turns over a little bit too much. It probably won't get you into trouble on majority of holes, but yeah, it might be a little bit uncontrollable, but we'll see. In terms of looks-wise, feel-wise, I know we spoke a bit before we started the video about this Cypher 6.0 shaft that you'd kind of tried a little bit yourself.
Yeah, I tried a little bit, and it feels nice. It sort of feels nice to swing. Head-wise, looks a little bit sort of big and rounded at the back of it, but it's not, you know, it's not something that would put me off playing it if it works really, really well. Yeah, okay. We'll hit one more with that, and then we'll move down to the core. We'll do a little quick comparison after this shot here. Nice one. Nice. Okay. So obviously this being the 10K offering from Qi35 this year, where it's a very, very stable head. You're obviously quite a good player, can find the center of the face pretty easily. You can see that kind of miss coming into play a little bit with that toe strike. So I'm not sure if you're someone that will benefit hugely from that 10K, you know, stability across the face. Probably more suited to that core or that LS head, I'd say, maybe just to get a little bit more speed out of. Spin rate's not too bad, it's maybe slightly high in my opinion, around about 3,000. We had yours at 2.7. Could maybe see if we could knock that down just a touch, you know, coming into summer, maybe maximising a bit of that rollout, but still keeping the height on it. So I think we'll notch you down to the core in a similar setup. Nice thing with the core this year is you've obviously got the two movable weights. So we see a lot of guys on tour in this head, but they've actually moved the heavier weight forward just to bring down the spin and the launch just a touch, get a little bit more ball speed as well. So we'll start it off in the standard setup. We might have a tinker around with the weights after we try the LS as well. No worries.
Cool, so same hosel setting, just one click lower, so 9.75 again. So we'll see, hopefully we'll see a little reduction in the spin rate, bit more speed off the face, hopefully a little bit more carry out of this one. So we'll have a look, let's go. Nice, good one. Yeah, really good though. So spins come down to 2.6, quite a nice area to live in. Gained a little bit of carry up at 230 now. Yeah, lovely. Yeah,
it feels nice.
First impressions?
Yeah, it feels nice.
Good.
I like the head sitting slightly open. Like I've always liked drivers that sit either square or slightly open. So going in that slightly de-lofted setting in this makes it sit quite nicely for me.
Yeah, I think it works. You know, you'll be able just to start the ball that little bit further right, and just this nice little shape you got, just that slight 5-yard turnover. And we see those two ended up bang on line. So yeah, it seems to work quite good. Good again.
Yeah.
Okay. While we're hitting some nice ones with that, I'm just going to flip that weight around just to see if we can see an immediate difference. I'm quite liking where that one is straight away. You can see those three highlighted in the red just there. Ever so slightly out the toe, but not really an issue at all, to be honest with you. The spin rate, really, really nice area to be in at 2,500.
Yeah.
Gained a little bit of carry over your one, so around 8 yards overall.
Yeah.
And about 10 yards in total distance because of the slightly lower spin, a little bit more rollout, but you're still getting the same height, which is quite good. So yeah, straight away, that's looking pretty good. So we'll flip these around. Okay, there we go, Dave. So we got the 13 gram weight up in the front now. So reason for this, maybe to see if we could get, again, a little bit extra speed off the face. Spin rate, we're not struggling for spin. So if we can still keep that launch and the height, again, as we saw from your driver, just knocking off a couple hundred revolutions of spin resulted in about 10 yards extra total distance. So we'll see if we can maybe squeeze out a little bit more from it, because I was quite liking those last ones. Yeah, good again.
Nice.
Yeah, nice. A little bit lower spin, so 2-4. Same carry, rolled on a little bit extra, so it's always going to give you the opportunity, depending on, you know, the course you're playing, the conditions you're playing, what ball you might be using, just to kind of fit you yourself, you know, as you go, depending on the day. So that's quite nice to see. Yeah,
wasn't clean that, but
super consistent.
Nice. Yeah,
really good. Do you tend to use the same ball every time you play, or?
Yeah, I tend to play Strixon Z style.
Yeah. Okay. Just the standard model. Yeah.
Just standard
okay.
model.
Perfect.
Felt
nice. Do you feel any difference with switching up the weights at all?
It doesn't feel drastically different, no.
Okay.
No.
Okay. As I say, it's a minor change. You know, we're shuffling around, you know, like 7 grams from front to back. So it's a minor change. We can see it there. So let's see. So yeah, degree lower in terms of the launch. Your dynamic loft is near enough the same, to be honest. So it knocks off about 10 feet height, a couple of hundred revolutions of spin. We're not necessarily gaining any carry.
Yeah.
We might get a little bit more rollout distance coming into summer, but going off that, I'd probably prefer you in the original setting, to be honest with you. Yeah, it's going to make that head a little bit more stable with that weight further back. And carry is always going to be a bit more of a reliable way to get distance. So I'd probably prefer you in that original weight setting anyway. So we'll have a look at the LS then. Okay. So we're lucky at the Performance Centre, we've got all the different types of heads with all the lofts, the models, everything like that. So we've got the 10.5 LS in the fitting kit. Okay. Because I'm quite liking this hosel setting. I don't know about you, but I quite like that 10.5 and 1 click lower. So while we're comparing them, we'll just keep everything in the same sort of setting, just for consistency. Nice.
Yeah, I would say visually, that looks brilliant. That looks awesome.
It's gorgeous, isn't it? It's really nice. Yeah. So yeah, I went LS this year myself. I come from Stealth 2 Plus, so the changeover wasn't that bad for me. I hadn't really played a core for quite a while, so it took me quite a bit of getting used to the look of the core, but that's why I ended up in the LS, just because visually it looked a bit better. It's much more forgiving than Qi10 LS as well, so it wasn't that scary of a change. So we'll see how you get on.
Didn't feel too bad, didn't it?
Yeah, so we see a little bit of that spin rate come down when you do get that slight toe strike, so might be something to be a little bit aware of. It might just die out the air a bit more with the LS, if that toe strike is going to be the miss.
That's the correction.
Right. Still launching nice. Right. Okay. Okay. Just might have a little bit of a tinker. I'm going to try it in that upright setting. I know we mentioned we don't want to really see that ball start left and then go left, but I just want to kind of protect you against that toe strike just a little bit. We saw that slight toe just knock out the air in terms of the spin rate, so we'll have a look. We might go... See what we'll start with upright 1 click lower. We might do an extra click because that was still actually launching in a pretty high window. I know you kind of like that height and everything, so we want to keep that as much as possible, but we'll see if we can get a little bit more distance and a bit more speed, because I guess if we're going to go to LS, that's kind of the whole point, isn't it? Just 100%. Extra distance, extra speed.
Yeah.
Good strike, nice. Good. Thoughts on this versus the Core?
I mean, it doesn't feel particularly unforgiving, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there was certainly one of those left ones was a toe miss, and one of them was, I think, just me. But it doesn't feel like it's going to bite my head off if I really miss it, to be honest.
It's pretty stable as far as like low spin drivers go. It is very, very stable this year. Okay, I'm just going to try you 1 click lower.
Yeah.
And then we'll do a quick roundup and we'll have a look at some different shafts options, because there's a few really good ones this year I want to show you.
Cool.
How did you feel about it in the upright setting?
I mean, it didn't look sort of massively toe upright, so I mean, if you hadn't told me it was upright, I wouldn't. I don't think I would have necessarily looked at that and said it's really upright. But I think these are relatively flat to begin with, aren't they?
Yes, yeah. So we're probably just bringing it up to as the Core sits, really, not necessarily making it super toe up.
Yeah. That was a bit me.
Yeah, so a little bit off the bottom, but you know, in terms of total performance and everything, you've lost 10 yards total distance from like a good one, so really not the end of the world. Okay. Do 1 or 2 more in that, and then we'll do a quick roundup.
I feel like is it where it wants to sit a little more open, whether I'm just
trying to tweak it a bit. Yeah. Okay, it's worth trying. You know, we've got so much adjustability in these heads. It's worth trying it. You know, you don't know if you don't try.
No, absolutely. Just
from watching you swing them, I think the one that impressed me the most was that Core head, and potentially in that back weight setting, it just seemed really repeatable as well. You're obviously going to get a little bit more cross the face forgiveness from something like that.
Yep.
Keep that slight toe strike spinning and in the air for a little bit longer. So what we'll probably do is we'll revisit that core head,
Yep.
have a look at a few different shafts. Might
Cool.
revisit the LS as well. But yeah, let's have a look at some shafts options.
No worries.
Cool. So I'm just going to have a look at one of the most popular shafts I've seen in the fitting kit for 2025. It's the new Kylie Blue Dark Wave. This one's slightly counterbalanced as well. So for a lot of people, it just helps with that stability up at the top of the backswing. Can help neutralize some club paths and things like that if needs be. But I think kind of similar sort of weight and everything to that Cypher we were swinging, just a touch heavier. Obviously with it being counterbalanced, might feel a little bit lighter to swing.
Yeah.
So we'll see if it can add any stability, but pretty happy with the Cypher. Let's just see how this one goes. Yeah, good strike again. Nice. Nice. Yeah, straight away jumping back into this head, I kind of just like the repeatability of it as well for you. Yeah, so we see those two, just you can throw a blanket over those. It's really, really nice. Spin rate a little bit high if we're being picky, but since you use, you know, that Z star we mentioned, you might see a slight reduction in spin rate from what we see in here. So hopefully that'll bring us down to that 2.5 region. So I think that'll work well. Yeah, good. Thoughts on this versus that Cypher?
Yeah, it doesn't feel heavy.
No.
Doesn't feel heavy at all. Yeah, it feels like I can feel the club. I know where it is.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, it feels nice.
Lovely.
Feel like I can, like if I want to hit that low, I feel like I could.
Yeah, so it's launching nearly a degree lower.
Yeah.
It's got just about 8 feet on average less height, which, you know, we're not struggling for height, so around like anything 90 feet or above is plenty of height to be dealing with. Its numbers are super similar, to be fair, in terms of spin rate it's delivering. I guess it just depends on if you'd rather see that slightly lower launch, maybe, or if you'd rather keep that slightly higher one that we had earlier.
Just want to feel like I like having been able to hit it high as per stock. Yeah. But then when I want to bring it down, I feel like I can.
Okay.
So I'll just try and hit this one a bit lower and see.
Sure. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a cool shot that to have off the tee. Are you someone that will tinker around with driver off the tee, or do you have another off the tee club that you use?
Not a huge amount, because to be honest, I mean, I hit it 250 odd off the tee, so there's probably not too many courses that I go to where driver's going to be too much, to be honest. So it is pretty much exclusively driver. There'll be occasions I might hit me 5 wood and things, but more or less it's going to be driver most of the time. So
nice. Just turn a little bit. Yeah. See, with your grips, have you tinkered around with any different grips in terms of tape or removing taper?
I mean, they're just standard multi-compounds in just one layer. I do have the undersize +4 grips on my irons. But yeah, I mean, I find, to be honest, that's probably quite similar to that. Even though that's standard and that's undersized, they're not too dissimilar. Okay. But no, so that's basically where I would be, is kind of standard grip. Or undersized.
For sure. Yeah, could maybe look at adding a layer of tape under the bottom hand potentially, just to stop that slight turnover. I don't know if you've ever tinkered around with that. I mean, speaking from personal experience, it's helped me massively.
Yeah.
So I'm at the moment 4 on the bottom, 2 on the top on, on an MCC standard.
Yeah.
It's helped my driver hugely. Just stop that left turnover. So maybe something worth considering. But yeah,
I like that.
In terms of numbers, I mean, both shafts deliver us 2 really good options.
Yeah.
At this point, I'd kind of leave it up to you on what sort of launch you'd like to see out of them. I think both super good in terms of the numbers they're delivering.
Yeah.
Cypher, slightly higher launch, exact same carry. If you do like to potentially try and hit that lower one, Kylie Blue might give you a bit more ease of use,
ease of doing it,
But yeah, 2 really good options there.
Cool. I think, to be honest, I quite like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, just for that kind of, when I want to hit it low, I feel like I can. Yeah. Just bring it down a touch, just for that time when I do want to do that.
Yeah, definitely.
Without really sacrificing the height when I want to just hit a normal one.
Like, where was it? This one here. So yeah, launching at 12, we were at like 15, 16, 80 feet of height, spin rate pretty much the same, carry exactly the same, didn't lose any carry. Yeah. But if we're having a look at the actual flight of it, that's the slightly lower one. Yeah. And then that's the Cypher, so you can see quite a huge difference in the flight. You can still hit that Kylie high when you want to, you know, that one there up at 115 feet. So again, maybe if you just like that slightly lower one, might be a bit easier with something like that, to be fair. Cool. Cool.
No, I like that. Yeah, really happy with what I've ended up with. Really nice sort of combination of shaft and head that Josh has helped me find out here. So we've ended up in the core head. Yep. Yeah. 10.5 degrees, click down 1, so playing at 9.75, and I'm going to go with the Kylie Blue Darkwave CB. Really nice counterbalance shaft to help me control that trajectory on it.